Tony Khan remains the king of pay-per-view. AEW All In was fantastic. This was an excellent show, but before I go any further, please guys, if you haven't watched my documentary, I'm going to link it in the description. Please go watch it. If you haven't seen it, click it, just go watch it right now. If there's any video of mine you're going to watch today, it should be that one. So click off of this video, go watch that one, it's in the description. There's a few people within the IWC that are in it, a couple from Twitter, a couple from YouTube, so, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I talk about the past, the present, and the future of AEW, what it's going to look like in 2025, and that's all I have to say about that. But let's get into AEW All In. This just ended a couple of hours ago, and, obviously, I don't go live yet. I should go live. In fact, I'm going to go live pretty soon. But for now, I just want to do, a little review, kind of talk about it a little bit. This was an incredible show. I think this was miles ahead of All In 1. All In 1, that was pretty much just about breaking records. It had 80-something thousand people. This had about 50,000 people. Didn't really make any difference, television-wise. It all looked the same. It's in a big stadium. You can tell it's in a big stadium. It was fantastic. The crowd was loud. It was big. So, that didn't take away from the show at all. The fact that there was 30,000 less people didn't take away from it at all. In fact, the stage was much better than last year. The stage was big, it was grand, we had that big ramp. Last year's All In was pretty much just like a lane, almost like a hallway, you know what I mean? There wasn't really anything special going on there. I also really liked that there weren't, 15 matches on this card. This was like a 8 or 9 match card. A couple during the pre-show, but whatever. It didn't feel rushed. That's the thing about this pay-per-view that I haven't noticed with any other AEW pay-per-view. This pay-per-view didn't feel rushed. Everything, they took their time with a bunch of stuff. The Jack Perry and Darby Allin match is the only thing that I think they probably cut that for time, I would say. Because that was a very short match. But that's fine. I like that. I like the fact that was a short match. That was short, and Hook vs. Jericho was the perfect length, I thought. Because Hook vs. Jericho wasn't a long match by any means. It wasn't really a short match, but it was 10 to 15 minutes, whatever. And then Jack Perry, Darby Allin, that was 10 minutes. Not every show on the pay-per-view needs to go 20 minutes. We don't need a match of the night contender for every single match. Give us a couple of breathers, man. Give us a couple of short matches. So I really appreciated that. We start the show with the trios title match, which I thought was fine. Pac winning. I don't know. I get it. It's in his hometown. It's in the UK. But was that really... the trios titles at this point... little to nothing, and we have Pac joining Claudio and Wheeler Yuta, I think, which is... I hate Wheeler Yuta so much, but you all know this. So he joins them, which it's just weird. He's not really in the BCCs, I don't know. Anyway, they win, whatever, Pac has his moment, didn't care much for that. Then we get to the Toni Storm, Mariah May match. This should have been co-main event, or this should have at least been in the Britt versus Mercedes spot, because Britt versus Mercedes was so dreadful, but we'll get to that. I don't think we're going to get to that. We're probably not going to get to that. Yeah, it was a stinky match. What are you going to do? It was kind of a stinker. Even in the documentary, Omega Talks, he was in the documentary, and he mentioned something. Actually, I don't know if I put this in the video, but he mentioned this to me, that, Britt Baker looks like she doesn't really care anymore. Or I might have said this. I think I've noticed this with Britt Baker. She just doesn't feel... It just doesn't seem like she cares anymore about her character and about AEW and whatever. Toni Storm versus Mariah May was one of the greatest women's matches I've ever seen. But I think the problem with a lot of AEW matches is right when they really have the crowd in the palm of their hand, that's when they end it. And I think that doesn't work in their favor a lot of times. I think they got to extend matches sometimes. Now, AEW is known for long matches. This is why I think we got to have a little bit more shorter matches on the card, because here's what I noticed. Mariah May and Toni Storm, I watched the whole thing, but I was only really invested in that last 2.5 minutes. You know what I mean? Because they had the crowd in the palm of their hand. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to win or who's going to win. And they're doing moves, and they're countering moves, and they're doing finishers and stuff, and whatever is happening is happening. And it's fun. And it's, you don't know who's going to kick out or what's going to happen. But the problem with AEW is I think a lot of the match is just building up to that point, and then you get to the point, and once the crowd is really invested, then they end it. I don't know. I mean, AEW doesn't do this all the time, but it does this sometimes. Honestly, there have been a lot of matches where AEW has the crowd in their hand, and they keep going, and they keep running with the ball, and it's great, and those are the best AEW matches. I've seen them live. Ospreay and Omega was one of them. I saw it live. And that's what I think this match needed, this Mariah May versus Toni Storm match. Don't get me wrong, it was still an incredible women's match. But if they just went like even 4 minutes longer, that's 4 more minutes of the crowd of 50,000 people being on the edge of their seat, being super invested. So that's what I'll say about that. Was Hook versus Jericho next? I have no idea. Could have been Hook Jericho. I already talked about that. Could have been the tag team match. I'm not too sure. The tag team match was fine. I thought the Acclaimed... I honestly thought the Acclaimed might have a chance to win. I'm glad they didn't, and I was hoping they wouldn't, because I think Young Bucks need to have a long title reign with these tag titles. Yeah, but, Acclaimed comes out, and they're super over with the UK crowd, which is great. The match itself, I don't know. There are a couple cool spots. I don't know. That's all I can really say about that. And then, of course, we get to the Casino Gauntlet match, but before I talk about that, I just want to say, where was Jamie Hayter? And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, Robbie, what are you talking about? She returned. After 1.5 years, she returned on this pay-per-view. She was right there on the pre-show. Came out, interrupted Saraya, beat everybody up. It was great. And I agree with you. And to that I would say, I agree with you. But why is a star like Jamie Hayter on the pre-show? That was a swing and a miss. And that's, I think, one of, if not my only complaint, my only major complaint about this show. Because you had 2 women's matches, one was great, one was stinky, and Jamie Hayter didn't appear for any of them. I mean, if Mercedes Moné, let's say Mercedes beats Britt Baker, and then her and her, I don't know, her entourage, her partner type person, and they're beating up Britt Baker, and then Jamie Hayter comes out to make the save, that would have saved the whole match. Jamie Hayter returned in front of about 20,000 people on the pre-show, when Jamie Hayter really should have returned in front of the full 50,000 on the main show, on the main pay-per-view. Because I was watching the pre-show, and I'm like, dude, if Jamie Hayter comes out right now to interrupt this, I'm going to hate this. And she came out. And I didn't hate it. I was wrong. I popped. I was like, oh my god, Jamie Hayter. And then 2 seconds later, I was like, why? What are you doing? You're going to waste her on the pre-show? Jamie Hayter is the biggest homegrown star in AEW. And she's going to return on the pre-show. Have you lost your mind, Tony Khan? Have you lost your mind? Anyway, Casino Gauntlet match. It was a great match. It was fun. It's different from the Royal Rumble. It's great. It's really great because there's no limit of how many stars can be in there. We could have 150 wrestlers in that, at the same time. But it was great. Ricochet comes out. He makes his AEW debut, which at the time I actually completely forgot that Ricochet was coming. So I was very surprised when he came out. But when Hangman Adam Page was there, first of all, why didn't Hangman win this thing? Hangman should have won. I love Christian Cage more than anybody, but I think Hangman deserved this. Fun match, nevertheless. MJF and Will Ospreay. Fantastic. Fantastic. I saw some guy on Twitter and he was talking about how this was not a great match. I don't know, maybe he's not a fan of MJF or Will Ospreay. I don't know what that guy's problem is. This was fantastic. This was a great match, as everybody knew it was going to be. Again, my only gripe about this, and I think I mentioned this before, why was this match not the first time they fought? Why did they have to fight 2 times? Because they fought like a month ago on Dynamite, so why? No. This should have been their first meetup. The entrances also, for so many, Will Ospreay's entrance was the sickest thing ever. It was awesome. MJF's entrance was really cool too. The gear, a lot of gear and entrances from tonight were just spectacular, like miles ahead of All In One. And that's what I'm saying. The show itself, in terms of the match quality, the stories, the entrances, the stage, the production, everything was so much better this year than it was last year. Swerve Danielson. I think we all knew Danielson was winning. Don't get me wrong, though. That match was great, and there were moments in it when I thought Danielson's actually gonna lose. It was an epic match, and the crowd was totally into it. Like, we get AEW pay-per-views where by the main event, the crowd is totally not into it. Forbidden Door, the one that I went to live, was one of them with Danielson and Okada in the end. But this was great. The crowd, 50,000 people saying Swerve's House over and over and over again, and then the crowd singing the songs, the final countdown for Danielson, and doing the yes chants. Dude, this was epic. This was an awesome match and a great closer. Danielson is the new AEW World Champion. Has the feeling been restored? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. All Out is in 2 weeks. Again, guys, please watch the documentary that I made. Took me hours upon hours to edit that, to, get the interviews, to talk to people. So go watch that. Link is in the description. And let me know in the comments what you thought about All In 2024. That's it. Good night.